Hi guys, it's Janae and welcome back to my channel, and today we are continuing with our read along for a silent reading. We're on stream 8 right now, and chapter 28 I believe. So yeah, yesterday was a bit of a challenge with the cough. I think today might also be a little bit of a challenge, but at least we got through 2 chapters, which I'm very happy about because I've really been wanting to get back to the story and we finally are. So I already have the chat popped out. Let's quickly see here. Right, that was the best. The first time I read it was like, does he realize what he just said? Yeah. It was a momentary lapse of sanity. Then I realized, nope, he's just that shameless. Hi, everyone. Oh goodness. Okay, so again, I have my tissue here for the coughing, and also just a quick heads up for Wolf Under the Moon. I have my phone open on the comments, on the comment section for this live. So if you for some reason get kicked off the live chat, you can just comment on this video and I shall see it, and then we can try and fix it for you. But yeah, okay, I need a pillow though. There we go. Okay, I think we can give it like 2 more minutes for people to come in if they want to come in, and then we can get started. Let me quickly pull this up. I hope everyone's weekend was good. I had a family function yesterday and then just had a really nice lunch with my parents today, so that was happiness. Oh my goodness. I hope this works. Stay there. Okay, cool. I think everything should be functioning now. Okay. Yeah, I don't have much else to say. So we're gonna do another hour today, not 2 hours, and then hopefully, not this coming weekend, but the weekend after we'll be back to 2 hours. But I just suddenly came to the realization that like the weekend after, we might already be in December, which is a problem because I've been wanting to do at least a part of Urha for December, but at this rate, because of all the complications that's been going on, I don't know if we'll be able to do that. We'll have to see. Yeah, no, it was a very, very necessary weekend, but also I am dying of heat right now because we have fully gone into summer now. So if you can hear the fan in the background, sorry about that. But yeah, with all of that said, I think we can get started. I hope the lag today isn't too bad, but it does seem like there might be issues. Chapter 28, Julian 27. Law Joe lay face down on his hospital bed, bored to death. Owing to his record of jailbreaking, he was being watched especially closely. He faintly heard Taran talking to the doctor. After a while, the doctor left. The door to the hospital room creaked open, and he heard the steps of soft-soled leather shoes. Without turning his head, Joe began to recite his lines. I can't go on. You have to. Hurry up and marry a good man. And when you're married to another, don't mistreat Igor. Igor's fate has been cruel, a motherless child. Married to another man, I think he might marry a woman instead. Toran coughed several times as if he was eating chicken feathers. Joe had heard that there was something wrong and quickly twisted his head around to look. He saw the director Lu standing right next to him with his hands behind his back. Oh no! Director Lu answered affably. I'd like that, but I'm so old. No one would have me. Lu enjoyed ... Propping himself up on the hospital bed, he quickly sat up. Director Lu Yuliang, put his briefcase aside, bluntly sat down, and put a hand up to his close-cropped hair. Pointing to the top of his head, he said, "Do you see that, little monkeys? In one night, half of my hair has gone white." Oh goodness, why do I get the feeling that this is going to be a regular occurrence for the man? Probably already is. Lo and Jo and Taran, one sitting and one standing, didn't dare to speak. This morning, first the higher-ups called me in for questioning, and then I hurried over to see Huang Liang. Lo Yiliang sighed. The piece of work. He clung to my sleeve and wept, saying his supervision had been lax, that a leader's responsibilities were serious, and also that he requested the association not deal leniently with him. He simply, as a quality leader facing his juniors, Lu Liang, in the end, managed to swallow down the profanity that came after this. He shook his head gloomily. What have Huang Jinglian and his crew given up? Two groups have been taking turns questioning them, said Taoran. We'll see how long they stick it out. Other than that, I've requested a search of Huang Hongliang's personal assets, although at the moment it seems that his assets have already been moved. On the face of it, he's clean. No matter how much investigation it takes, we have to grab him by the tail. We must have hard evidence for this. Everything needs to be solid. Otherwise, we won't be able to answer for ourselves to anyone. Hearing this, Luo and Zhuo suddenly had a thought. Uncle Wu, what about Director Zhang? With such a big mess coming out of the sub-bureau, the real higher authority whose supervision had been inadequate was Director Zhang, and in addition to that, Zhang Donglai had been implicated in a homicide case. This didn't need to be spoken to be understood. Lu Yuliang sighed and put his hand on Luo and Zhuo's shoulder. Then he turned and looked at Taran. What about He Zhongyi's case? What's the connection between the two cases? Taran wasn't like Luo and Zhuo, who could offer anyone a cheeky grin. In front of Director Lu, he was somewhat nervous and subconsciously stood up straight, back to the wall. In the small hours of the morning, we arrested the suspect Zhao Haochang. We found a pair of gloves in his pocket, which had paint and iron fillings on them. The suspect must have been wearing these gloves when he damaged the security railing on the roof of the Gemini building. But he's very sly. He only acknowledges loosening the railing as a practical joke and utterly denies everything else. Also, he claims that he has an alibi for the night of May 20th. I mean, of course he would. He is a lawyer, so I'm pretty sure he knows, where to stop in terms of giving answers. Don't you have conclusive evidence that on the night of the 20th the victim disappeared on Wenchang Street? Asked Lu Yuliang. The security camera only caught the victim getting off the bus at Wangchang intersection. Afterwards we lost track of him, said Taran. And Zhao Haochang's colleagues say that he was working overtime at the office the whole time. We can't say he was the killer just because the victim passed by his office. We still haven't revealed to Zhang Haochang that we have the security camera footage. He's aware. Though he doesn't specialize in criminal law, he's very quick. It's likely he would hear that that's the only card in our final hand, and it would put us on the defensive. Luo and Zhuo laughed bitterly, feeling that there really was a meeting of the minds between Fei Du and Zhao Haochang. those two beasts in human clothing. Their lines of thought about the alibi were exactly the same. Has Wang Shujun been able to identify him? The victim, Wang Shujun, says that the person who picked her up picked her up last night, was wearing dark glasses and a face mask. He was also wearing a wig, and he changed his clothes. It was hard to determine his appearance. Taran paused. We showed her a photograph of Zhao Haocheng, and she doesn't seem to have recognized him. It's about the same with the rental car company. The wig and the jacket that the suspect used were found in an abandoned rental car. We couldn't pick up any fingerprints. Should our next step be to consider a lie detector? I mean, lie detectors aren't admissible in court, so it wouldn't be helpful. And he's sure to know that. Sorry. You can get it ready, said Lu Wenjue, thinking, but there is no rush. There is a point we haven't cleared up. What is the connection between He Zhongyi's case and the sub-bureaus? Before Taran could speak, his phone suddenly vibrated twice. Lu Yuliang and Lu Wenjue looked at him. Taran raised his head. A piece of bad news, and a lead that may or may not be useful. The bad news is the bloodstains on Zhang Donglai's tie have undergone DNA analysis. The blood does belong to the victim, He Zhongyi. Lu Wenjue stood up, his expression rather grave. And the lead? Said Lu Wenjue. The lead is that Wang Shujian has just remembered the person in the photograph. She says that he looks very much like a boy from her village called Zhao Nian. Only he's changed so much that she didn't recognize him at first. Zhao Nian? Fang Nian. Lu Wenjue wanted to stand up at once. He made it halfway and nearly keeled over. Someone told me that it's very likely the murderer has a record. Immediately look into the whole history from Zhao Fengnian and Zhao Haocheng, focusing in on unresolved cases of suspicious death among people close to him. Ooh, because it's been a while, I almost forgot that he had, other victims. Oh, damn. Lu Yuliang repeated the words someone told me, then frowned. On that subject, I heard that valiant car owner later paid full price for 5 minutes of broadcasting right on the East Flower Market District's Canopy of Heaven during the closing ceremony rehearsal, and performed a suicide intervention for Huang Shujun. How much did the broadcasting rights cost? He said it wasn't much. I mean, I wouldn't trust Feidu on that. Taran answered very sincerely, not as expensive as that car of his. I mean, that's not saying much. It could literally just be 800,000 in comparison to 1 million, and it would still be bad. Director Liu felt a trend among the few remaining black hairs on his head to turn white. Oh no! You're a criminal investigation team. The old man considered the sum of money he had heard about, and his blood pressure started to rise. He deliberately asked, "Do you understand the situation? Is there a female comrade who's encountered some trouble in her personal emotional life?" Speechless, Lu Wenjue and Taran looked at each other helplessly. Lu Yuliang seriously reviewed the young woman in the criminal investigation team and uncertainly asked, "It couldn't be Xiao Lang. Is it buffering a lot, or is it just me? It's likely not just you, so I want to hear from everyone else." I'm sorry. I just want to see what's going on here. See if we can maybe fix the buffering. Is it fine now? Okay. Then I'm not gonna tamper with it, but keep me updated. If it buffers again, let me know and we'll try and fix it. I don't want to mess with it if it's sorted itself out, but okay. Having said this, he himself thought that that fool Lao Chao wouldn't have attracted a domineering director general. He looked at Law and Joe again. You're looking at the wrong gender there, I'm just saying. It seems okay now? Okay, cool. Luo Yuliang remembered some secrets that to this day he'd been unable to entirely accept and suddenly growled, pointing at Luo and Zhou. It's not your doing, is it? Oh no. Luo and Zhou immediately said, injustice, a singular injustice throughout the ages. Director Liu had yet to relax when Luo and Zhou blinked, thought for a moment, and nodded once with a great show of earnestness. Although it sounds like that's my bad luck. Alas, he's too much of a bastard. If I spend a whole day with him, I die of anger 8 times. So, never mind. Lu Yuliang hadn't expected his shamelessness to be this far-ranging, and was so angry that his blood pressure shot directly up to 180. Speechless, he pointed to Luo and Zhou. Time is tight and the task is pressing. Anyone who pulls any shenanigans had better look out. But when Taran had seen the furious leader out and returned to the hospital room, he found Luo and Zhou sneakily smoking out an open window. You can't do that in a hospital, Luo and Zhou. Where'd you get that? From old Master Lu's pockets, said Luo and Zhou. Hey, are you my brother? I need to run off a bit. Will you cover for me? Oh no. Taran's temples throbbed. What are you going to do now? Chen Yin, that black cab driver's kid's sister. She died an unnatural death a half a month ago. Before that, she'd phoned a girl she hadn't contacted in a long time. I've been thinking that there was something unusual about that call, and I wanted to go find her and clear it up. Does it have to be today? Taran said hopelessly. Luo and Zhou tapped out a cigarette ash. The sooner the better. There's too much pressure at the bureau. Frowning, Taran considered their captain's pitiful appearance. He wanted to say something, but he felt it would have been a waste. He had to come to compromise. All right, what's the girl's name? What does she do? Chue Ying. She's a second-year graduate student at Yan West Policy? I don't know how to pronounce that. Taran froze at once. Yan West Policy? Then what was the Chen Yun who died also Yan West Policy? What's wrong? Zhao Chang graduated from Yan West Policy. Ah! Taran said quickly. Last year, I think he got an invitation from the academic advisor and came back to supervise some real-world experience for the students. Luo and Zhou stubbed his cigarette out on the windowsill. Hell, let's go. At this time, in another hospital room, Lang Chao, not blinking an eye, was listening to He Zhongyi's mother, Hong Shijun, speak. Fei Du was next to them, wearing single-use gloves and peeling an apple. Reasonably speaking, he shouldn't have been there, But Wang Shijin had nearly committed suicide and then gotten a huge scare. Her mood had been unstable, and since she'd woken up, she'd become an elderly child who needed to have a guardian present before she could say a few complete sentences. Um, Maybe try refreshing the pages. Sometimes that helps. I'm sorry. Okay, I keep bumping this by accident. Let me try and fix that. Um, I wanted to say something or something, but oh, I kind of forgot this part of the story, so I kind of feel a little bit like I'm experiencing it for the first time again. So Fei Du had become her temporary guardian. Lang Chao quietly asked, "Did He Zhongyi mention to you that he'd met Zhao Fengnian in Yan City?" Mother He shook her head in small arcs. In relation to this Zhao Fengnian, do you remember anything else? You weren't able to recognize him at first. Is that because he hadn't come back to your village for so many years? Mother He looked at Fei Du. Fei Du didn't cut in. He smiled at her encouragingly and cut up the peeled apple into small slices. He arranged them on a paper plate, added 2 toothpicks, and waved the plate between the two women. "This is dry work. Have some vitamins." "He had nothing to come back for," said Mother He slowly, her voice a little hoarse. "His family was gone." At home, there was a crippled father and a mute mother. Aside from him, there were 3 other children, 2 girl children and a child. The family was very poor. They barely managed to raise up a university student, and everyone was saying that good luck was on the way. But one winter, in the middle of the night, a village idiot got shut out by his family. He had nowhere to go, so he drifted, lit a fire to keep warm, and accidentally set fire to the big tree at the Zhao family's gate. The wind was very strong, howling, but everyone was asleep, and no one noticed. The person didn't have any sense, didn't know to call for help. The burning tree snapped and fell on the roof. It came crashing down. The whole family, old and young, except for the eldest, Feng Mian, who wasn't home then and escaped the disaster, they all died. It was too awful. Oh, that's a lot. Okay, has refreshed, been worked. Also, you're the best, darling. At Taran, fully agree. He is best boy. Me every time Toto's here. I do like that we kind of have him and that he wasn't this very big obstacle between um Norwenjor and Feidu. I feel like obviously he is a little bit of an obstacle, but it just it feels like there's more to him than just being the love rival or like the cause of their um rivalry towards each other. So I really like that. Not relatable for you because he has too much patience with these. That's hilarious. Okay, sorry, I seem to be struggling a little bit more today. Aside from living, what am I saying? Oh my word. Aside from learning to farm, field trip organized Wait, aside from a learning farm field trip organized by a school when she was little, Nang Chao had never left the city. Having heard this much for a time, she couldn't comprehend it, and couldn't resist following up. No, what you're saying is a tree at the Zhao family's gate caught fire and fell, and the whole family burnt to death? Did the whole family live in a single room? Their house was a bad one, Mother He explained softly. We're behind the times over there. I remember. It was after we had Zhongyi that it became normal to re-roof houses with brick and tile. Their family's man couldn't work and there were a lot of children. They could barely manage to live. Where would they get the money to put up a new roof? They always lived in the old house. If a bit of snow fell in winter, you had to sweep it away at once, or else the roof would come down. Oh, damn, that's intense. Okay. They'd managed to get their eldest out to study, and the whole family had such hopes for him. The old couple praised heaven and earth, said their son was working in the city, he had money, the family could rely on him and put up a new roof, and the death, wait, what? The deathmeat youngest and the second girl would have hoped too. The roof had been stripped off the wing then. The two girls had nowhere to stay, so they slept on the floor of their parents' room. When the burning tree came down, the ceiling beam collapsed, and the old couple were crushed right away. The two girls were both still young. One got her leg trapped, and the other one couldn't hear. Maybe she was a little slow, too. She panicked and tried to pull her little sister out so she couldn't get out herself. Oh no. The little one wasn't even 2 years old. There's nothing to say there. That's a lot. That feels more brutal than we got in the show. I don't know if they kind of censored some of what happened to them in the show, but that's intense. Damn. Sorry, that just kind of threw me a lot. I wasn't expecting that. Nang Chao was stunned for a long time, then quickly opened her notebook. The fire happened while the house was being repaired. Where was Zhao Hacheng, Zhao Fenglian at the time? In Yan City? Mother He thought about it for an age. No, I think he'd come back home especially because of the house. But he wasn't there that day. He'd gone to the county seat to see his teacher or something. Oh, it would have been better if he'd been there. That family of little ones. If there had been a perfectly good, sturdy young man there, how could they have come to an end like that? You know what upsets me? And I don't know if again, it's just because I forgot some of these details, or if it's because they didn't spell it out this much in the show, but the implication that he probably did that because he just didn't want the financial burden of his family on him, which then explains why he saw no issue with handling the situation with He Zhongyi the way that he did once that happened, because he's not gonna get rid of one financial burden only to take on another one. That's so sick. Unusual story made Lang Chao break out in gooseflesh. Then how did they know that it was an idiot who done it? He was right there with a box of matches in his hand. When the first people came to put out the fire, they saw him sitting nearby, totally unconcerned, burning leaves for fun. They asked whether he'd set the fire. He giggled and nodded. How was this handled afterwards? How else could it be handled? Like that, a person who doesn't understand anything, what could you do to him? His parents were gone. His brothers and sister-in-law saw him as a burden. The sister-in-law made a scene all over the place, said her family had no money. They weren't responsible. Told them to tie him up and shoot him. What? The police station in the town sent people. When they saw that it was... I don't like that word being used all the time in regards to this situation. They couldn't do anything either. They took some photographs and left. It would be so much better if it was just financially motivated. True. Young Charles spoke. How could they not be responsible? If a incompetent individual injures another person's life or property, wouldn't the guardians bear the liability? Yeah, I can see that argument. Mother Her looked back at her in confusion and fear. She didn't understand the imperial edict Lang Chao had pronounced. Lang Chao exchanged a helpless look with her, then suddenly noticed that she'd said something stupid and felt so awkward she forgot how to speak for a time. Just then, Fei Du, who hadn't uttered a sound all this time, put in a timely word. Do you remember what kind of person this Zhao Fengnian was? What his relationship with Zhongyi was like? Of course I remember. The whole village knew that the Zhao family's eldest had great prospects. Zhongyi and the other little ones were always following him around. He was a big boy, not willing to play with them. He would usually say something to get them to leave him, but with those little it was always Feng Nienge this, Feng Nienge that. Mother Her had said this much when she thought of something, and her eyes reddened. Someone passed her a wet paper towel, and she took it and mopped her face for a long time. The Zhao family's eldest was pretty studious. When he was at home, he didn't go out, just sat alone indoors reading. When he'd go out in the fields to help his family, if he met anyone he knew from the village, he'd say hello and nothing else. He was a very quiet child. Okay, now at least we're getting to his personality, because I feel like if all you can really say about someone is, oh, they had prospects, that doesn't really tell you a lot about their personality. I suppose you could argue and say that it tells you that they're studious, but a studious person doesn't necessarily equate to a good person. Beidou nodded thoughtfully, and afterwards, this Zhao Fengnian never went back. I didn't know where he'd gone. I never expected he was in the city, and he changed his name and become so important. Mother Her's words suddenly paused, and her eyes slowly opened wide. She seemed to be awakening from a dream. The person driving the car who took me away yesterday was the Zhao family's eldest? I didn't recognize him. Why didn't he tell me? Does he have something to do with my son's case? Fei Du sighed and leaned slightly forward. Using a soothing voice, he said, "They're still investigating. Why did you go with him? What did he say to you?" He said that he was a person who specially handled lawsuits for people. That there was a person named Leo who did the same job, and he was the person who came to the Public Safety Bureau last night. Attorney Leo? Said Fei Du. Right, attorney. He said this attorney Leo had evidence of who the killer was, and he'd snuck over to the Public Safety Bureau to report it because his conscience was bothering him. But there was no use having evidence because the murderer was an important person. See, the sad thing is I can totally understand why she would potentially believe that. If you're in a strange place and things aren't moving at the pace that you maybe are expecting, then it's very easy for someone to breed doubt in your mind, I feel. Oops, sorry about that. I hope that didn't sound too bad. I don't know why I keep hitting things accidentally. The police didn't dare to touch him. My son would die for nothing. I panicked, asked him what to do. He said in this society, if you want to right a wrong, you have to make a splash. When Taran took Lang Chao's phone call, he was serving as a driver, taking Captain Law, lightly wounded and refusing to leave the front towards Young West Police. I sent someone to investigate. When Zhao Ha-chung had just graduated, he didn't have money to rent an apartment and lived in the West Flower Market District for the better part of a year. That should explain why he's so familiar with the West District's terrain. Also, I confirmed with Attorney Liu that Zhao really was very concerned with Zhang Donglai's case. Before Zhang Donglai was released, he paid even closer attention than Zhang Ting. Lang Chao took a breath and continued. And Attorney Liu also says, since the business of the Thai concerned his career, he didn't breathe a word about it to anyone but the police, not even his wife. Zhao Ha-chung definitely couldn't have known. I like that. That makes sense. The phone was on speaker in the car. Luo Wenzhou interrupted her. But he can quibble and say all important people are like that, or perhaps he'll simply say that it was something he made up to fool Huang Shujin. Make a splash doesn't necessarily mean he was telling her to kill herself. He just meant for her to cry out her wrongs in public. It's too vague. Is there anything stronger? Not yet, although there is something very fishy about what happened to his family. It had happened to an ordinary villager, and then been left unresolved. I'd believe it, but Zhao Ha-chung was already working then. Would he have let it go at that? He seemed to be pretty confident at manipulating public opinion. Write up a report quickly. Go through the formalities and obtain the official records of the Zhao family's case from their town police station, Luo Wenzhou considered. Can we track the phone he gave her Zhongyi? I mean, it's fair because considering the fact that they're dealing with a lawyer, they have to be extra thorough. Yang Chao sighed. Smuggled goods, we can't track it. What about the 100,000 yen? Said Luo Wenzhou. A voice unhurriedly put in a word from beside Lang Chao. In some rather intricate M&A projects, a reliable legal advisor will often get some grey income. Sometimes it may simply be cold hard cash. You won't find it. Luo Wenzhou. ... It was clearly an objective statement. Then why did it seem like a provocation coming out of a certain person's mouth? What brilliant ideas does President Fei have? Said Luo Wenzhou. The phone line was silent for a while, and Luo Wenzhou was thinking that he just put in a word and left. That was something Fei Du would do. But then Fei Du suddenly said, I called Jang Dong-lai this morning and asked if he remembered where his tie had gone. It turns out that he didn't even know he'd lost the tie. He thought about it for ages before he remembered and said that the day of the party at Chengguang Mansion, he had in fact gone to work during the day. In the evening, he changed at the office in order to attend the event and left his previous outfit there. He couldn't have put something as big as a tie in his pants pocket. If he lost it when he changed, then my earlier inference was perhaps an error. When Zhao Ha-chang took the tie, he must not have known that He Zhong-yi was waiting outside the mansion for him, and he didn't know he'd use the tie to strangle someone. So his motive for doing this is worth deliberating. That's true. You're saying he simply stole it? Given his income, such a small worthless thing isn't worth pilfering, said Fei-du. There's no saying that he was just hoarding a memento. A memento for what, though? Lo Wen-jo shuddered. Hoarding Jang Dong-lai's stuff? If I recall correctly, that was the first time Jang Dong-lai took him to a social occasion like the one at Chengguang Mansion in a private capacity, said Fei-du. While chatting with He Zhong-yi's mom, I suddenly thought that his character seemed very closed off. Perhaps he would have some special way of commemorating events. Why don't you go investigate? That is an interesting thought, though, like the fact that it's a habit that is kind of like clearly is almost like a serial killer habit, I would say, but then it leaks into the way that he interacts with things in his everyday life as well. I don't know if I'm making sense. Erlang, did you hear that? Request a warrant to search Zhao Ha-chang's home. Lo Wen-jo issued a prompt decision, heard Lang Chao's affirmative, then quickly hung up the phone. He turned his head and expressed to Taoran, a person burned his whole family to death, and Jang Dong-lai, who's no better than that, strangled someone from his own town. The young genius, Attorney Zhao, has truly lived surrounded by injuries from those kinds of people. Taoran's lips moved. He didn't speak. And what brilliant ideas do you have, Deputy Captain Tao? Nothing. Taoran hesitated for a long time. It's not about this. I just suddenly had an outrageous idea. Report it to the throne. It won't kill our imperial presence. While they were stopped at a light, Taoran turned his head and looked at him. What do you think? Could there be someone who already knew who the murderer was before we made our breakthrough? Nonsense, said Lo Wen-jo. You killed someone. Aren't you going to know about it? You need the police to affix their seal. Okay. Aside from the murderer? Asked Taoran. Lo Wen-jo froze. Taoran, what are you trying to say? Just then the light changed, and the driver behind them honked and somewhat hastily to hurry them. Taoran pursed his lips, turned back to the road, and drove on. It's nothing, he said. Forget it. My imagination's running away with me. I think I could write novels. Yan West Policy's graduate campus should be up ahead. Right, Lo Wen-jo picked up a folder. First, I'll try calling Yin. The girl's photograph, apartment, phone number, and other such materials were all there. Lo Wen-jo had just dialed when several young people came out of the graduate campus's back gate. Among them, one girl fished a phone out of her bag and seemed to be hesitating about an unfamiliar incoming number. Taoran looked at the students from afar, then looked at the photograph in the folder. He suddenly poked Lo Wen-jo with his elbow. Look, doesn't that young lady look like the one you're searching for? As he said this, the girl picked up the phone. At the same time, a hesitant "Hello?" came over Lo Wenjo's speaker. "It's her." Lo Wenjo got out of the car on the spot and called out, "Hey, Ying, here. Look to your right." The student next to her, hearing a strange young man calling to her in the middle of the street, all began teasing her. Ying looked around in bewilderment. Then her gaze fell on the police license plate. The girl's face immediately changed, as if she'd seen a ghost. Then, without any warning, she turned and ran. "What's going on?" Lo Wenjo asked Taran as he gave chase. "The young woman turned and ran when she saw you. You're done for, Taran, doomed to be single all your life." Taran clenched his teeth. "You scared her." Lo Wenjo had no chance whatsoever of finding a young lady to share his days and therefore was untroubled. The two of them cooperated in tacit understanding, one chasing and the other blocking. They had nearly caught Ying when she suddenly leapt heedlessly straight into the road. The taxi was just driving by. The sharp sound of a horn pierced the air. Taran deftly grabbed her by the back of her collar and pulled fiercely, yanking Ying back to the side of the road. The hastily braking taxi narrowly brushed past her shoulder, the sharp wind raising the girl's hair behind her. Recovering from her fright, the taxi driver rolled down the window and let out a torrent of abuse. A breath had caught painfully in Taran's chest. He could only wave his hand in apology. 20 minutes later, Taran and Lo Wenjo took Ying back to a brightly lit cold drinks bar. "This'll do, right? You chose the place yourself, and the street outside these French windows is full of people. If you yell, you can call over half a city's worth of people. You can send a text message to your friends telling them where you are." Lo Wenjo irritably tossed his work ID on the table. "My badge number. You can take the photograph and post it on Weibo. But don't post my photograph directly. Pixelate it or Photoshop it." Oh, goodness. Ying, ... Okay, yeah, the collection, the part is so creepy. The fact that it's just his daily life is even more creepy than it being intentional. Listen, everyone needs hobbies. James, ... I like that we're carrying over from the novel into the comment section. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm looking for your guys' comments. Taran ordered some drinks, worried that Ying's weirdness was too strong. He didn't touch them, but asked the clerk to put them in front of Ying. "Why did you run?" Head down, Ying didn't speak. "You're afraid of police cars, or afraid of the police?" Taran asked quietly. Seeing that she still didn't answer, Taran lowered his voice and said, "This may be good news. The Flower Market District Sub-Bureau's Director General, Hong Hong Lai, was arrested last night." Ying froze immediately. Then she, at last, cautiously looked up. Lo Wenjo knocked on the table. "Be sensible, all right? Please, young lady, push up your glasses and take a good look. Have you ever seen such a handsome bad guy? If I'd wanted to make a fortune, I'd have gone out and made it with my face long ago. Would there be any need to risk breaking the law?" Confidence of Lo Wenjo. Don't listen to his nonsense, said Taran. "Young lady, I don't know how to make you trust us." Tu Ying suddenly said in a quiet voice, "Isn't there also one surnamed Huang?" Lo and Jo exchanged a look with Charan. She did know something. "Peng Jinglian?" said Lo and Jo, becoming serious. He pulled up a mugshot on his phone. Suspected of abusing his power, trafficking in drugs, murder, and other crimes. I arrested him last night. I've still got a glorious silk ribbon on my back. Tu Ying subconsciously opened her mouth to speak, then tightly closed it again. She looked at Lo and Jo and Taran, full of suspicion, trying to use all of her limited experience to judge whether these two people had truly arrested Wang Hongliang, or had only concocted these facts and taken some seemingly real pictures to trick her. Yeah, see, that's unfortunately quite possible. She couldn't even tell whether Lo and Jo's work ID was real or fake. "Young lady," said Taran, "you know Chinjun? He was Chunyan's brother. Last night, Chinjun died and we caught the killers. But because we lack evidence, we can't get the person behind them. Are you going to sit by and watch the bad guys get away with it?" Tu Ying bit her lip and hesitated for a long time. She said, I don't know. I have to ask my teacher." "Why do you have to ask someone else?" He has it." Taran froze, then followed up, "He has what? Did Chen Yun give you something?" Just then, Lo and Jo hit him with his elbow. Lo and Jo held out his hand to Tu Ying. "Go ahead. You can call right in front of us." Tu Ying picked up her phone, found the name Teacher Zhao in her contacts and dialed. She called twice, then said in surprise, "No one's picking up." "Teacher Zhao? I'm assuming that's Zhao Fenglian." Something about this is bothering me. But also, it's kind of insane to think how much has happened in just, 2 days? Basically, less than 48 hours? Because it's taken up quite a lot of chapters, and so it feels very stretched out, but obviously it's only been less than 48 hours. Of course no one was picking up. He'd spent the night squatting in a little dark room. Lo and Jo, with a great show of earnestness, got out a little notebook. "How about this? Give us your teacher's contact information, and we'll go and have a chat with him." Tu Ying hesitated. "Chen Yun called you 2 weeks before she passed away. I think she told you something. This must all have happened around that time. Investigating which teachers you had contact with and which ones of them was surnamed Zhao would be easy. I'm only asking you to save a little effort. You've divulged this much already anyway." Tu Ying was flustered for a moment, then agreed. "His name is Zhao Ha-chung. He's a Shishong. Our practical experience class invited him to act as a coach. He was there for 3 months," said the inexperienced girl. Then she tossed the phone number. "That's his contact information." Lo and Jo considered her for a moment, then suddenly said, "If I recall correctly, Chen Yin didn't go on to a graduate program after graduation but went right to work. I guess your teacher didn't know her?" Tu Ying didn't notice that he was fishing for facts and shook her head. "He didn't." "I understand now," said Lo and Jo. "She entrusted something of vital importance to you that she was afraid of others getting their hands on. She didn't even give her brother a hint. You thought this thing was too scary. You were at your wits' end over having it, so you went to someone you trusted and left the thing with him. That's about right?" Tu Ying's expression flickered. She didn't answer. "You trust him so much," said Lo and Jo. Your teacher must be pretty handsome. Always back to the looks. Seeing blushed. On the one hand were the police, whom she didn't trust. On the other hand was the person she had a crush on. If they told her Zhao Hacheng had been arrested, there was no need to say what Ying's reaction would be. Luo Wenzhou sighed inwardly. What was there to do? Seduce her? Looking at the trembling Ying, an idea suddenly flashed through his mind. Oh no, and that's the end of the chapter! They just love leaving us on cliffhangers. Let's not talk about what that one does in his free time. Oh goodness, is this a spoiler? No, I'm kind of scared. Okay, so that's why I'm gonna be ending it again. We're 3 minutes early, but I don't wanna stop it at another place, considering we're now 2 chapters in. So yeah, I think that's it for today's live. That wasn't as fantastic as yesterday's chapters in terms of like the way we were very much fed with Feidu and Luo Wenzhou moments yesterday. But I'm glad that we're kind of like getting to the end of this arc now and wrapping up some of the grimmer things surrounding Zhao Hacheng, because damn, that man is really creepy. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Sorry for all the coughing, and I shall see you guys again next week for pre-recorded versions of reading for Scamberlin, if all goes well. And the week after, we should be back to normal, or at least some semblance of normal. I don't know. But yeah, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. 再见。